Good afternoon. Thank you for being with us. Today we are presenting a very important project for the eyewear industry, and this is as a product sustainability certification. It's a very important certification for the future of our companies, of our production lines, because our products will have to be increasingly certified. So Anfao and Certottica have been working on this project for almost 2 years. Just to give you an idea of the hard work that we have behind us. My colleagues will present the project in detail. What I hope and what is important is that a company realize that this is an important project that needs to be immediately embraced. We cannot lay back and wait because we have to be ready to fulfill the needs of the market. These requests are already there, but will increase even further in the future. With ANFAO, we will work with companies to raise awareness about this project. I'd like to thank Corrado, who's the managing director of Certottica, because I must say Certottica has an anticipated view over our needs and the needs of the market, and this is a tool which for us and for all companies, especially the small and medium-sized companies, is essential to survive on the market. Thank you, Cinzia, thank you, Michele, and thank you, Marco. Well, I've already seen the presentation, and I can tell you it's very important. So I urge you to listen to the presentation and to call Certottica as soon as possible in order to embark on this project, considering that this must be done and must be done in the short term. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Chair. And now let me give the floor to Nicola Moro, Studio Fieschi. He represents the advisory office who have been supporting us in the past 2 years, and he's led us to this result. Hello, good afternoon. I hope you can hear me well. My task is to describe the path we have been going through in the past 2 years and the contents of this program. And I will use a slide that we used during the very first project meetings. And there you see the aim, the goal of this activity. Our goal was to create a certification program that could enhance the value of the commitment that many companies were already making in order to reduce their environmental impact, so all the sustainability measures. And this program had to support the entire industry to improve and strengthen these topics in their daily production activities. So given this objective, we had to identify the best system in order to finalize this environmental label. As we know, there are many environmental labels. If you go into a supermarket and if you look at the labels, you realize how many logos and symbols there are on packagings. Our idea was to create one strong and robust label based on fully recognized and recognizable standards. To do so, we decided to um, refer to norm, the UNINORM 14024, an international norm that regulates environmental labels. It's not the only available standards, but this was certainly the rule, the standard that could better fulfill the needs of this program. So the environmental label that we are presenting today is a label which is based on the fulfillment of a series of environmental criteria. I will go through them quite quickly afterwards. But what are the characteristics and why did this label comply with our needs at best? Well, first of all, because it allows us to investigate and consider a series of environmental aspects that are deeply rooted in the eyewear industry. In other words, it doesn't measure general environmental aspects, but we can define very specific criteria for our industry. So, for this reason, we can define a very robust criteria from a technical viewpoint. The second feature of this type of label is that the final user can make decisions and can make choices also based on sustainability performance indices. When a consumer buys a product with this type of label, he or she knows that the product they're buying has a specific environmental performance which complies with a series of criteria. The credibility of the program and the credibility of this label is guaranteed by a third-party audit. In other words, it's not an assertion that or a statement that the company autonomously provides its product, but there is a third party who, based on specific criteria, checks the product. The last point I'd like to dwell on, which is very important and very peculiar, is that this program was promoted but also managed, is also managed within the sector. The fact that ANFAO promoted and then managed the program makes it even more catered to the production setting, and this is a highly peculiar aspect of this label. So once the label was defined and once the path was clear, what measures did we implement? Well, we defined the scope of application of this label, as I will show you later more in detail. At the same time, we started working on two main pillars of this program. On the one hand, the rules, the regulation, and on the other hand, the criteria. I will soon show you what these two documents encompass. Then once the drafts of the rules and of the criteria were defined, we started an open consultation as provided for in the aforementioned standard, so that the stakeholders involved could make proposals about the improvement of the draft. At the end of the consultation, we adapted, we edited the draft based on some of the recommendations given during the consultation, and we opened another testing phase on the field. We asked some companies to try and apply these rules and these criteria to their products to see whether this could work. And some companies accepted the invitation, and together with them, we tried to apply the criteria on some selected products, and we collected a series of interesting information which has allowed us to better define some elements of the rules and of the criteria. After that testing phase, we reached the final status of the rules and of the program. What I'd like to point out is that throughout this entire process of 1.5 years, companies have been paramount. This program was not defined externally, but rather involved companies throughout all the development stages. And this is, in my opinion, another distinguishing feature of this project. So we said there are two main pillars, the regulation on the one hand and criteria on the other. What does the regulation contain? Well, the regulation defines the basic principles of the program. For example, it defines the purpose, the scope of application of our program. It defines the principles that are based on the ISO norm that I mentioned before, and it also precisely defines the roles and responsibilities within the program. And FAO
soggetti che vengono coinvolti nelle varie fasi di gestione del programma e poi di rilascio
sorry, the
delle
sound was off.
quindi queste responsabilità vengono proprio
And
definite
all the responsibilities are defined within the
nel
regulation.
regolamento. Poi si va anche a specificare come e quando il regolamento stesso e i
The
criteri
regulation
possano
also
essere
specifies how
flessibili.
and when the rules
Non
and the
sono
criteria
regole
must be updated or amended.
anzi hanno
So the rules and the
la
criteria
necessità
are
di
not
rimanere aggiornati
um,
nel corso degli anni,
unchangeable,
anche
but
perché
they must be adapted and
anche
updated
perché le stesse
over
procedure
time.
tecnici dovranno
Also the
essere
criteria, the
adatte
technical criteria, must comply with
e
the
quindi
um,
dopo aver previsto questo tipo di unità di
technological
misura e
progress.
situazioni
And so the
predeterminate.
regulation
Queste norme
includes
poi
specific rules
viene
on that
indicata la
as well.
condizione di una certa etichetta
Then the conditions for issuing the label are specified, and so the phase of application, check, and issue of the label are also described. In the regulation, there are the general rules for the use of the label, the necessary conditions to keep and retain the label, and the methods of certifications. Last but not least, the regulation specifies the features that the certifying bodies should have in order to um, uh, certify and approve the issuing of the label. So this is it as far as the regulation is concerned. As you see, it implies very general terms and conditions. It explains basically how the program in general works. The other pillar of the program pertains to the criteria. Basically, the program is based on the fulfillment of specific criteria. I will go through them very quickly. The company who, a company who applies for the label has to comply with specific criteria, with minimum performance thresholds, and based on the performance level of the company, we see whether the thresholds are complied with. And so that we can see whether through the fulfillment of these criteria the company is able to comply with other general criteria, and so the label can be issued. The Type 1 certification criteria are the following. So all the product cycles, the entire product cycle must be covered by the certification, from raw material sources to the end product, the use phase, and the final destiny of the product. So all these phases must be monitored through specific criteria, so as to guarantee that the entire life cycle is environmentally friendly. We therefore identified environmental criteria and parameters to measure them.
È esaustivo, tanto che non tutti i prodotti sono
Here you
uguali.
see
Ma giusto per dire
a list of some of them, just to give you an idea of what the program checks and measures. So the program checks the origin of the raw materials. So the program investigates on whether the product was manufactured through recycled or biogenic raw materials, or whether wood or cork components are FSC certified, and so sustainability for raw materials is checked. Then the production phase, and here you see how scraps are managed, so the amount of scraps and how scraps are managed, whether they are recycled, and whether that material is recycled within the production cycle. Then we also consider the water and power consumption during the production phase. And if the energy used comes from renewable sources of energy, we assess then the coating and painting procedures. So we also consider whether these these processes are carried out in a sustainable way. And finally, we assess some aspects concerning the supply chain, so transportation, and the environmental and social sustainability of the suppliers. Besides all these environmental criteria, the company must prove that its suppliers guarantee specific performance also from a social viewpoint. The third area is distribution, and this includes packaging, both the case and in the following stage of the program, the cases will have their own certification, and then the packaging itself, the amount of recycled material, and and up to which extent the case can be recycled at the end of its life. Then we've focused on what the company can do to control this phase, the phase of disposal and recycling. Is it possible to disassemble the eyeglasses to replace to change some spare parts, for example, if a hinge, for example, breaks down? And in this respect, also dangerous substances are investigated. The final phase is the end of life of the product, and we see whether at the end of life eyeglasses can be disassembled into pieces that can in turn be recycled. So there are criteria that must be assessed by the company first and by the certifying body afterwards in order to obtain the product certification. How were these criteria defined within the regulations? Well, let me show you an example so that you can better understand how they work. So one criterion pertains to the amount of recycled material. How can you measure this parameter? Well, in this case, you assess for each individual component the amount of recycled material. You then sum up the weights of the different components, and you obtain the percentage of recycled material on the product for the product. The regulations provide for three different levels of certification: bronze, silver, and gold. And for each criterion, three thresholds have been identified. Well, the most challenging one for the gold level, the least challenging for the bronze level. Well, it's less challenging, but it's not easy at all to fulfill, because sustainability is really is considered in a very strict way, and so criteria are not easy to meet. And then the reaching of the thresholds is measured, and the auditor, for example, will have to check the weight of the different components. And will also have to assess how it is proven that the material is recycled. In this case, for example, a certification or an official document by a third party should be submitted in order to prove that that amount of material is recycled. Well, clearly, this is just an example. As we saw before, there are about 30 criteria. Not all products will meet all criteria, because some criteria are applicable only in certain situations. But in any case, the certification requires the monitoring and the exact monitoring of many different aspects related to the product. Another important element of this program is that, according to the initial purpose, we want to involve the entire production chain, the entire supply chain. And this doesn't mean that not only the final product can be certified with this label, but also its individual components. So even the hardware, the lens, or the side piece manufacturer can obtain a certification for its product. And this component certification can be used by the eyewear manufacturer to prove the requirements. Certain requirements that must be proven by the eyewear manufacturer can be proven through through the certification of the components.
tutta la catena di fornitura, tutti i produttori di
In so doing, we can involve the entire supply chain, all the components manufacturers, which will be interested in having their products certified, because their customer in turn will be able to certify its product more easily. So, just a couple of final words on the symbol. So you see the logo of the labeling program, and through a link to further information concerning the level of certification and so on and so forth, well, this information will be included in a specific website, and the buyer of the product will have access to this information via a link or a QR code. So this is it. I think I've run out of time, and of course, if there are questions afterwards, I will be happy to answer them. So thank you, Nicola. He will stay with us for questions. And now Marco from Certotica, and he is the coordinator of the ANFAO technical commissions, and myself. We will recap, we will summarize the entire process for the companies, and then I will hand over to our Vice President Michele Gasparini, who is also in charge of sustainability, for the final part. He will talk about distribution, so opticians and retailers, and the final consumers. So of course, if we do not disseminate this logo among final consumers, we will miss the chance of focusing on sustainability. Well, this morning, by the way, here at OTTICLUB, we presented a research study among the purchase drivers, both for spectacles and for sunglasses, and not only in Italy, but also in the United States, France, UK, Spain, and China. Well, as among the questions that we asked the consumers, there was one about their readiness to buy a pair of glasses with a sustainability certification, and all countries with different levels, and you will be able to see the details because the research study will be made available. More than 60% are ready and willing to buy a pair of glasses with a sustainability certificate. Marco. Good afternoon, and thank you, Cinzia. Thank you also to Nicola Moro from Studio Fieschi for the overview of the path that has led us to the current status of the project. It was very tough and very challenging to obtain the criteria and to obtain a certification for a product like eyewear. We know that eyewear are very complicated products because they are the result of the collaboration between and among different manufacturers and components. CSE stands for Certified Sustainable Eyewear. As Nicola said, it is a certification program that is going to certify the environmental and not only environmental sustainability of the eyeglasses and of their components, hardware, and the raw materials used. It's a certification that ANFAO owns, so it's a proprietary program. It's a private program on a voluntary basis.
The basis, just like was said, is ISO 14024. It has been tested in various sectors, ISO standard for environmental labeling. Application is at a national level, but especially at an international level. The aim of the certification, obviously, promotion of all of the sector, that is to say, to enhance the commitment of the members of the companies toward their products and environmental certification. It's also important to anticipate European regulations. Fields of application, just like was said before, fields of application, it's not just the finished product, the frame, sunglasses, but all of the actors of the supply chain can participate because the fields of action include raw materials, temples, metal, hardware, plastics, hardware, finished glasses, eyewear, including packaging. And we consider all of the life cycle of the eyewear in the various products. Sorry, Marco. Just like Nicola Moro said before, we haven't yet considered the case, and the case will be part of the second phase. At the moment, we have packaging, but not yet the case, the eyewear case, and at the moment, the case is not certified, and it's a voluntary program, just like I told you, and for all of the actors of the supply chain, and especially covers, especially the environmental segment domain, and those products that are the best in environmental terms, and the criteria, just like was said before. We consider the product and the various components at 306 degrees. Use of raw materials, it can be acetate and so on and so forth, going through the type of manufacturing process used for the creation of the eyewear of the product, and the use, the disposal, end of life of the object, and all and transportation. It's product certification, but it also considers all of the supply chain around the object. Something else, just like was said before, it's an improvement program, and we are monitoring, and we will monitor with all the experts the evolution of the sector, the technology, the market, and also directives, be they national, European, international directives, to continuously update the criteria and the thresholds for the assessment of the product. And what's the procedure whereby companies can certify the product? So there's an applicant, a certain company that wants to be assessed, and through the website, and then we'll show you the website, it can send a request to ANFAO. ANFAO is the competent body for the program, and ANFAO will evaluate the application, and it will be then passed on to the certification body, and the certification body will consider and examine the products that the company wants to submit for the purpose of the CSE certification. And the procedure includes the assessment of the documents, the back office, the documents provided by the company for the product, for the style, and then there will be a session devoted to the audit at the premises of the manufacturing plant for that specific product. It's here you see a summary of the certification procedure. Once the body assesses and also confirms the minimum values of the various criteria, then ANFAO, the competent body, first of all can issue the certificate, and it gives license of the use of the CSE brand, and it can be used for the product in the website, but also retail stores. And as for the duration of the certification, and hence the use of the CSE brand, the duration is 3 years, and the certification body reserves the right to make sample checks to monitor the product and compliance with the criteria. Obviously, in the case you may have changes, the applicant, the company should communicate timely changes to ANFAO and certification body for subsequent and new assessments. After 3 years, obviously, the certification ends, and you have to apply again for the renewal to keep on using the CSE label for that product, or to extend the label to other products. As for the selection of the line of product, just like I told you before, it's possible to certify one product or more products, different styles of the same eyewear that can fall within the same certificate, under the same umbrella, and provided the sample and products comply with the same criteria, with the same threshold, and respond to the same evaluation criteria. And to define which of such styles can fall within the certificate, there are some factors that we have identified together with FISCI and work teams. It's 4. Shape and size. Raw materials used for the components of the eyewear, for example, acetate, polyamide, metal, titanium, the production channel of origin, because the same eyewear can be produced completely in a single plant, or part in Italy, part in Asia, and then it is assembled in Italy. And manufacturing process. The manufacturing process has got its own importance, and it's one of fundamental factors. Additional details, I'd like to give the floor to Cinzia. Yes, additional details. Yes, first and foremost, I would like to thank the companies for participating in the work teams, for drawing up the regulation and criteria. And after this phase that we carried out together with Certotica, we performed a test in 5 pilot companies of different kinds. So the program has already been tested, and companies have assessed that it's feasible. Yes, it's difficult, it's challenging, but it's feasible as a program. And all the technical documentation at the moment is ready. The regulation and criteria are ready, and the list is on demand based on the products to be certified, just like Marco said before, depending on the type of and number, size of the company and manufacturing. You may have different situations that may require different type of certification commitment. The process has a strong digital component because we have an internet website and reserved areas for the competent body, but also the certification body and for the companies. And all of such phases will be certified through blockchain and especially certifications. It means that the final user, when the final user scans the QR code that is found in the eyewear purchased, the end user can check if that eyewear is certified. The website is csc-eyewear.com. You see it there, and it's already up and running. It's online. You see there the name of the website. I'd like to give the floor to Michele Gasparini, and I'd like to personally thank Michele Gasparini because his team participated in the test phase in the company. And Michele Gasparini will add additional details. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. A brief reflection on the reason why, in our opinion, companies should adhere to the program. So, for sure, first point, as you can see from the slide, to anticipate time, to anticipate possible European and international policies, and be ready when you should take such an approach. And then company side to monitor products and manufacturing processes. Many of us have manufacturing companies, and our supply chain is complex. Our supply chain is a set of different suppliers in different countries, and so having certainty about how everything is produced and manufactured. It makes the business sustainable and repeatable in the course of time. Being an active part is a reference to the first point, trying to anticipate time and become a promoter of a different approach in the field of eyewear. Remember, this is tailored for our world, the eyewear world. And last point, company side always, to enhance the product, give visibility about how things are made, and criteria at the basis of some choices, and also manufacturing flows and design choices. We spoke about it before, and Cinzia mentioned it. Consumers. Why should consumers be interested? And it's surprising figures. Many of us work on design and style, but consumers, 31% of consumers believe that sustainability is more important than design and style. You should reflect about it, and it should drive our choices. Then, we read such data. 74% of users would like to have more information and transparency in the communication of brands on sustainability. They want to understand what they do in practice to say that a product is sustainable, and 72% of users believe that brands should use recyclable packaging. And many of us are already working on replacement of plastics with something more sustainable for sure. So the focus is shifted again to consumers. We are convinced that enterprises that adopt this type of vision may be more appealing for consumers. And so the focus will shift. However, we should be able to communicate in the best possible way and give information that can be used by consumers. Apart from what we said before, company side, the optician, the final distribution chain, will have to communicate and explain and give visibility to the brand, because otherwise we cannot close the loop from creation, manufacturing, distribution, and choice by the final consumer, supported also by the stores. So, I would say that, in my opinion, we've said it all. Thank you so much for coming, for your participation. I'd like to thank my colleagues for the work done. Just like we said before, major work has been done in the course of the past few months and years. At this point, if there are questions from the floor, thank you so much.
Se non ci sono domande, vi ricordo che a breve presentiamo.
There are no questions. I'd like to remind you that in the case of Media Awards, we'll have also an award on product certification that has criteria very similar to CAC, because that's the source of inspiration. And next year, would like to have same criteria, awarding at Middle First Eyewear, officially CAC certified. Thank you.